Hello. Hi. Welcome to our 8th week. We are almost done with this quarter, and it has been a very unusual year and a very unusual quarter, particularly. And so I wanted to reach out to all of you by video today and talk to you not just about what's coming up in the class, but also just about the current state of the world and our role in it as childcare leaders and administrators, why it is that we do the job we do, and what does that mean for how we support each other as professionals and how we support children and families. So let me walk you through the module this week and the assignment, particularly for the small group. And I'll do that in a couple of minutes. But first, I wanted to talk to you. So we're going to see if I can move. There we go. Still learning to use Screencast-O-Matic all the way and move between screens. We started this year with a vague awareness in January that there was an illness that might be coming our way. By March, everything shut down. This is beyond unusual. It is something that has never been seen before by any of us who are alive. It's been 100 years since we've had a pandemic like this. And definitely, we've never had a pandemic that has hit the world the way this one has. We're over 2 million cases in the United States and over 100,000 people who've died. That's more people who've died from COVID-19 than the number of people who died in World War II. So added to the stress of this illness and how it's affecting many of you individually, many of my students have been reporting either themselves or a family member ill, whether or not they've recovered. Some people have actually lost family members, lost parents, lost grandparents. We are also being affected by the fact that we are home. We are home with people hopefully we love and enjoy being with. Although for many of our families, that's not true. For many of our children, they're in homes where the tension increased when they were sheltering in place and having to do homeschool, and families were responsible for so much. So we need to be aware that when we go back into classrooms, or if you're already back in classrooms, that these children are fragile. Additionally, some of you are back working with children now. Many of the people that I'm working with in different classes, professionally, colleagues I have on Facebook have been going back into the classroom. And what's happening in the classroom is unlike anything we've ever seen before. We have to figure out how to do what we know is developmentally appropriate. You're studying these philosophies that are the ideal of what we want for children. They embody respect for the social emotional environment. They embody respect for the child as a learner, the respect for the role that children play in each other's learning. And with COVID-19, we really can't create the classrooms we know are best for children. Even in the work you're doing right now in your small groups, you are talking about what's the best of the best. And I'm really enjoying the conversations. I want you this week to move into thinking about how do you hold on to the kernel, the truth of what is best for children in a time like now, where classrooms are required to be socially distanced, some of them. Children aren't allowed to play with each other. In most classrooms, if not all of them, teachers are supposed to be wearing masks. I know some classrooms have broken those rules, but it is required by licensing that teachers at least wear masks. That can be terrifying for young children. How do you introduce a child to the idea that half of their teacher's face is going to be covered? You lose all the facial expression once a mask goes on. One of the best tips I've heard from other teachers who have gone back into the classroom is they created videos for the children of them putting their mask on and taking it off and introducing the idea that they were still them behind the mask. I've also heard about really good masks that have a clear piece in the middle where you can still see the mouth of the person speaking, which helps children who are interpreting by lip reading and adults who are interpreting by lip reading. It also helps judge emotion and get that facial expression that means so much in an early childhood setting. There's a lot we need to think about post COVID-19 in our classrooms with children. It's critical we not lose the quality of what we need for children. So that's one piece. Moving from there, the institutionalized racism that has been part of our human society since humans were created. Let's be honest, racism, creating this us-them environment where one group has more power than another group, has been in place forever. And in this country is heavily embedded in slavery, in the early ways the country was begun, and has continued over time. The conversations about institutionalized racism, about sexual harassment, about the equal rights that are critical to families that are non-traditional. All of these conversations have been going on for a long time. With George Floyd's death, we entered a period of time where the conversation isn't going to stop, or at least I hope it's not. There's an incredible tension and awareness and alertness to the fact that some of us have more privilege than others purely based on the family we were born into. If you're white, and I am, of course, you were given privileges at birth that you didn't earn, you didn't ask for it. They just were given to you based on the melatonin in your skin. Other children were born without those privileges. It's something we talk a lot about in diversity in education, which I'm actually teaching in the summer, and I hope to see some of you there. The other side of that privilege is that there are children who don't have that. As a teacher, as a director, the first line we talk about diversity is what is happening for children in the classrooms. What's happening for families in our programs? How are we creating a world in our center where A, everyone belongs? Diversity is joyfully welcomed and encouraged in our classrooms. B, we are creating an environment that is anti-bias, that fights against racial and other categorical prejudices, that helps children learn how to stand up for themselves and others when prejudice and institutionalized isms oppress them or others. We also want to create an environment where every single family and every family culture belongs. They feel safe, respected, and like they are definitely a member of our community in our classroom. The part that's relevant to this class, and this is where I want you to think about the training you're going to provide and design, is we also have to think about how the adults we work with are carrying all of the messages they've ever heard throughout their life with them into their conversations with us, with families, and with children. That's why that class, Teaching in a Diverse World, is so important for our students in every single community college. It's the place where we talk to students about what messages did you hear? How did those messages affect who you are? How did they change who you are? How did they change the way you view other people? All of that is a really important long conversation and should be included in some way in your in-service plans. As a supervisor, there will be times that you need to have a conversation with somebody. And it might be something as simple as, can you come in half an hour early tomorrow? It might be something as difficult as, you've been late every day for 2 weeks, and that can't continue. We have ratios we need to meet, and it's critical you're here on time so that we can meet those ratios. And this is the third time I've had this conversation with you. It can be anywhere up and down that spectrum. It might be a conversation where we need to tell somebody a family has filed an alleged report that that teacher has in some way violated the child's rights. I've had to have all those conversations with staff over the years in many different types of situations. Sometimes in the conversation, I learned something I didn't know before. In one situation, there was the teacher and his wife, both who worked for me. The wife was the assistant director, and he was the lead teacher in the toddler classroom. Kristen was like 5'2", redhead, white. She and I butted heads a lot over what quality was for children, but created a really good partnership because we challenged each other to think about developmentally appropriate practices. Anthony was the best toddler teacher I've ever worked with, hands down. Every child in the toddler classroom would go to him the minute he came in. They were consistently late to work, or he was. Her shift started after his. He was consistently late to work for 3 weeks, and it was 15 minutes late every time, 20 minutes late sometimes. And I had talked to him a couple of times just saying, hey, it's really important. The ratios, I have to make those ratios because if I'm going in the classroom and I also have a tour planned, I can't do both. That's why I have you starting at this time. The third time I went to go talk to him, I sat him down and said, Anthony, I've known you for a year. I know that what you do in the classroom with children is critical. I know that what you do in the classroom with children is amazing. They love you, and I love having you as the lead teacher. You're the best toddler teacher I've ever seen. However, I can't continue to let you be 15 minutes late. It's impacting the entire program and everybody else. And he had apologized and said he was going to work on it every single time. That particular time, he teared up and he looked at me and said, do you want to know what's happening, Mary? Do you want to know? I said, yeah, I really do. I want to know what's happening here. He said, Kristen and I got a brand new car. It's an SUV. And I was really excited. We had saved the money to buy this car. And as we drive from East Palo Alto to Los Altos to work in your program, every day for 3 weeks, with the exception of 1 or 2, a police officer has pulled me over with my biracial children in the back seat. That officer has looked at my wife and asked her if she's okay. The reason Anthony felt like he could tell me that was because I had listened to his stories. He and I had conversations about the bias that families had when they toured and they saw him in the toddler room, and how we would work to help families understand that men could be quality teachers and caring teachers as well. And he and I had worked a year on some of those biases that families had coming into the classroom, both based on the fact that he was a man and that he was a Black man. We had talked about that openly, and I had listened and learned from him and learned with him on how to help families develop the relationships they needed to overcome their stereotypes. As a supervisor, you can't take anything personally. You can't. Each adult you work with is coming in with all of this past, all of this history of who they are. Anthony wasn't just telling me about 3 days of being pulled over and being disrespected and his relationship with his wife, mother of 5 of his children, being disrespected. He was telling me about how he had been treated since he was a young boy, about how his whole life he had been perceived as what people thought he was and not who he really was. He was angry in that moment. He was frustrated. He was loud. I had 2 choices at that point in that conversation. I could either go, Wade, whoa, not me, not about me, and become very defensive. I could have done that and said, whoa, why are you yelling at me? That's not appropriate. I could have gone there, and many supervisors probably would have. First, I built that relationship early. You've got to build relationships with staff, with families, and with children before issues come up. As a supervisor, that relationship is built over time and with evidence of your sincerity. Second, you have to be vulnerable to build relationships where people are willing to tell you, Mary, your white privilege is showing a little bit. Right now, you are completely unaware of the fact that my commute to work is very different than your commute to work because of the color of my skin and my gender. You have to be vulnerable enough to hear that from somebody. It was the first time I really understood what it meant to be driving while Black. I've never forgotten the lesson. And I'm incredibly grateful to Anthony for teaching it to me. And because I sat there and listened in that moment, instead of saying, well, you're late, you just can't be late, and getting defensive, instead, because I listened and really heard him and said, I have no idea how to help change that. I can't change the police department. Anthony, what can I do to support you? When I came at it with that type of vulnerability, he said, Mary, nothing. You have no power over this. I will leave 15 minutes early. And I said, okay, I'm going to move your shift to 15 minutes later. Pretend it's the same time, and hopefully we get you here on time. And if there is something else I can do, please let me know. Right now, with the death of George Floyd and so many others, there are a lot of names behind George Floyd's. If you have not researched Black Lives Matter and about the number of deaths that have happened senselessly, please do. Become aware of it. Even if you disagree, you have different opinions, one of the best ways to overcome our thinking just within our lane, here's what I've been taught my whole life. In diversity, we talk about this is what I've been taught. In order to break away from just what you've been taught and get a broader perspective of the world, research the opposite of what you believe. Read stories about people's lives that you haven't lived to understand their perspectives. Listen to the people that you're talking to about their perspectives. Listen to the staff you work with, even if you disagree with them, especially if you disagree with them. Listen. Tell me, what is that like for you? Ask questions, try and understand. I'll post the video that I think I've already posted before, but I'll post it again. 10 Keys to a Better Conversation with Celeste Headley. And it's a great tool as a supervisor to take into any difficult conversation, honestly. Because of where we are with so many protests happening and so much raw emotion happening at this point in time, the need to listen to each other and be really thoughtful about what we say and how we say it is huge. I ask that you as students and you as future supervisors really think about how you're incorporating that patience, the listening, the fragility to say, the vulnerability to say, I may not know something. Can you tell me about something I don't know? I'm going to ask you to really think about what you're doing in your life to incorporate that. Also, to remember that everyone has, in this class at least, the best of intentions. I've been watching your posts. I've read what you've had to say. This group has incredibly good intentions for children and families. You are amazing teachers, and you're doing amazing things for children and families. So if you read something that's upsetting to you, please take a step back and think about, I wonder what their intention was. Did I read what they intended me to read, or did I read into it based on some of these messages from my experience? If you have concerns about anything anybody posts, including me, please contact me. Send me a message on Canvas inbox. Text me. You've got my phone number on the syllabus, but in case you don't have it, 408-605-1661. Let me know that you have concerns, and I'm here to listen and to help and to support respectful, quality communication among you all. I have greatly enjoyed the discussions in this class. In the midst of pandemics, warrior wasps, these incredible protests and riots and violence I never predicted could happen on such a scale. An elderly man was pushed down by 2 police officers and hit his skull. There's so much going on that it's overwhelming for all of us. So be patient and caring with each other, please. Let me show you what we have in the module this week. Sorry, my email opened up there. I have to put my glasses back on to read it. So in this module, you've got a welcome letter like you do every week. I want you to continue with your small group discussions, except I've opened a second discussion for you to work in so you can start fresh. And there's new instructions there, so we'll talk about that. There's articles and TED Talks. I'll show you everything in here. The assignment in its completeness is here, and I've gone ahead and opened that now, even before I post this video, because I want you to be able to look at this as you're working. You've got another week to get this completed, and there's a lot of information here. You've done most of the work in the first conversation. Now you're looking at creating that in-service agenda. So you should all, each of you as individuals, be contributing to this project. Part of the reason I ask you to work within Canvas is so that I can see your work and see who's contributing to what. There are tools in Canvas to help you do that when you're in the small group. You can share files, you can create pages together. I can show you some of that. There are 2 things you're going to submit to 3 different places, just to confuse you a little bit. You're going to create an in-service agenda with articles and backup materials connected to it. That's one packet. That packet gets submitted to this assignment when it's completed, and Monday of finals week, that packet gets submitted to a discussion. Then everybody will read the packet and comment, wow, this is really incredible. Thank you for sharing these resources. Generally, these are amazing packets and worth downloading and holding on to the information everyone's gathered. After those 2 have been posted, then each of you individually will write a reflection paper. You're going to submit this individually, and that will not open till Monday of finals week because I don't want you to answer the questions prior to finishing the project. So your reflection paper should answer these questions. Why was this particular topic important to you personally? If you were going to grade your project, what would your grade be for your group and why? I want you to justify that. What did you specifically contribute to this project? What did others specifically contribute to the project? Please name everybody in your group if you can, unless somebody's been completely absent. And is there anything else? Be honest. I'll be able to see it in the Canvas small group anyway, so please be honest with me. If you're struggling to stay up with the small groups, please talk to me and let me help you. Again, the world's overwhelming. Please let me help you complete this class. So here's the steps to finishing the project. Please read through this whole thing. All of the information is there. That's all the rest of the assignment details that you need now. This is a video I created a while ago for a different small group class. Actually, it was this same class, but a different semester. And it goes through how you can use pages, files, discussions, all of these tools here to create what you need for this project right here within Canvas. You shouldn't have to do much outside of Canvas, and anything you do outside of Canvas, you should be able to post in here. So I can see you actually at work. It helps me understand what each individual is bringing to the table and monitor communication as well. This is an article about planning staff meetings. It'll be really helpful for you in the project that you're working on and thinking about how do you plan, what's your purpose, your structure. So please read that through. There's a lot there to support you. You're going to have an icebreaker, have some objectives for the day. Here's what I want to accomplish in this one day in service. And at the beginning of the day, you should have something that gets people to relax. I put up bingo as an example in the assignment, so you can't use that one. But there's a lot of great icebreakers. And so here's a video talking about some of those. And if you need ideas, message me. I've got a ton. This is a TED Talk about how to start changing an unhealthy work environment. And I know many of you have actually been working in environments or have in the past worked in environments that were not the healthiest. And so I thought this was a good video for you to watch towards the end of our discussion about being a supervisor, being a director. And then your small group discussion is new for this week. You're in the same small groups, but in this discussion are the next steps. So you're going to finalize your philosophy from your previous discussion. You're going to start on the in-service agenda, plan for 8 hours, and just descriptions, 1-paragraph descriptions of each thing that you do. You may also have a PowerPoint that you attach as a support piece for that agenda. So read through the assignment, and then these are the questions you as a group should be working on. Everyone in the group should participate equally from the beginning, middle, and end of the week. Please do not come into these discussions at the end of the week. It will frustrate everybody else in your small group. Please work from the beginning. If for some reason something happens, we have a student in another college, another class who just got diagnosed with COVID-19. Let me know, let your small group know so that we can support you and make sure we understand why you're absent in the discussion. So if something happens, just talk to us. Talk to me and talk to your small group. Within your small group, and I'll go into Reggio Emilia's small group, we won't look at any of your discussion, but I want to look at the small group area. You have a section here, files. The video goes over this to here. You can drop and load files, and it says what date it was loaded. Make sure your name is attached somehow to what you're loading, or you put in discussion, I loaded this. You can create pages together. So your agenda is something that you can add here. You can say add one, and then everybody can contribute to it. Please don't delete other people's work if you're adding to the page. If you think it needs to be moved, put a note in there saying, hey, Mary, I want to delete this line and add this instead. Are you okay with that? But this can be like a Google Doc that you're all working on together. So hopefully all of this helps you, and all of it helps you finish this project. If you have any questions at all whatsoever, please reach out to me. I, again, am so grateful for all of you and the hard work you've been doing this semester or this quarter. And I look forward to seeing what you develop. Thank you very much.